every single day on The View is a contest in stupidity. Truly, it's an amazingly competitive match between some of the dumbest people on earth. No one really notices on a given day that Whoopi Goldberg is a very dumb person who says very dumb things because everybody else is so dumb on The View that she's constantly outshone. She seems like the most sane person on The View, which is kind of an amazing statement. Trying to suss out which person on The View is least intelligent is an exercise in quantum mechanics. Whoopi Goldberg, she of the genius sort of sage presence on The View.
Thanks.
She's like, I'm not saying that maybe white people need to get beaten up for police reform to happen, but maybe white people need to get beaten up for police reform to happen.
But how many times do we need to see white people also get beaten before anybody will do anything?
Okay, so first of all, this is unbelievably stupid.
Yep.
We've seen many, many cases of police brutality against white people.
Every morning on The View is like stepping into a circus where the clowns forgot their jokes and just started yelling over each other. But behind the laughter track and fake applause is something more bizarre competition of who can say the most ridiculous thing on live TV.
Well, folks, as you know, I love one show on TV more than any show on TV. The View.
Gary!
I've had a lifelong ambition to actually be a guest on The View. They'll never have me on, of course, because it would go horribly for them. But today, we're going to go through some of the cringiest moments from The View, a repository of nearly all human stupidity, total IQ 7. And she's trying to make an anti-Trump argument. She's like, I can say anything I want. And she's like, I'm going to say something super racist. They're all like, oh, man. Yeah. Well, apparently her hair was not her only bad decision that day.
The Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
No,
it's about
a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
No!
That's what it's about.
On who you talk to. Whoopi, always available to sign in.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
To both compare Israel and the United States to terrorist organizations and also compare terrorist organizations to apparently not terrorist organizations. Like, Hamas is not a terrorist organization? Oh, man. It is amazing because Whoopi is sort of seen on this show as sort of the wise old sage. And I have to say, you need better sages.
And you know what's wild? One person who constantly floats above this sea of nonsense is Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, her. The one they treat like the wise elder of the table. But don't be fooled, what people call wisdom is often just louder opinions with more dramatic pauses.
So Whoopi Goldberg was on that great repository of all human intelligence, The View, and she was explaining that people who are not using masks are going to make things more dangerous for themselves. She's talking about how the mask will protect you from the flu. Oh, Lord. Here we go.
Well, no, you know.
Well, you did have that.
I did have a cough, and when you did not show up, Brian goes, thanks, Whoopi's out.
Well, I assume that is because when you have little ones, you will always have things that you travel with. So as people will tell you, yeah, take off your mask, don't worry about it, we're not going to check it anymore. Just know, the flu
It's still
will fly in. Okay, because the flu flew in and got me.
Okay, so I'm just going to point out here that the entire narrative on the mask was about COVID. And now they're you should probably wear a mask because if you take off the mask, the flu will fly in. We saw Whoopi Goldberg over the weekend suggest that Nikki Haley is not a new generation. How can you say she's a new generation? Whoopi Goldberg is 67 years old. Nikki Haley is 51 years old. Donald Trump is nearing 80. Joe Biden is 80. So yeah, technically speaking, she is in fact a new generation. But here's Whoopi Goldberg speaking for the youth of America.
Now that's what they're saying. Suddenly, everybody said, oh yeah, it should reflect all of us. Okay.
Let's talk about why this matters. The View isn't just any talk show. It's daytime television's drama factory, shaping opinions of millions who watch it while drinking their morning coffee. And if you're looking for facts or reason, you're in the wrong place. This is where feelings take the front seat and logic gets thrown out the window.
This was taken as anti-Semitism. She didn't say the Jews weren't specifically targeted, by the way. She didn't actually say an anti-Semitic thing the way that Whoopi Goldberg did. She just said that when people are inhumane to each other, bad things happen. For this great crime, she was not suspended. She was fired outright from The Mandalorian, losing presumably hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary because she was one of the main characters and they were considering a spinoff of The Mandalorian with Gina. They fired Gina, so we hired her, right? We have a new movie that's coming out with Gina Carano in the next couple of months, which I'm excited to tell you about. Okay, but they fired her outright, did Disney. Whoopi Goldberg says something far worse in every respect than Gina Carano ever said about the Holocaust. And she's going to get a 2-week suspension. Never look for consistency with the left. It is all just a game of power. In any case, Goldberg apparently is livid and feels humiliated over the suspension. She feels ABC executives mishandled this. She followed their playbook. She went on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and then apologized again on The View the next day, the source told the Post. Her ego has been hurt. She's telling people she's going to quit. Suspension from The View is like getting suspended from Bravo. The bar is very low. Prior to her suspension, sources that spoke with Page Six said that employees and executives, including insiders at Disney, were furious over her remarks and the fact she had not been disciplined yet. Whoopi Goldberg, yesterday, she did her full apologies. You'll remember that 2 days ago, Whoopi Goldberg went on The View and she suggested that the Holocaust was not about race. And this tied into a broader ideology of the left, which suggests that Jews are white people, and therefore, the Holocaust was actually white people attacking white people, which is a thing she actually said on air. Then she went on Stephen Colbert, where she quasi-apologized and then doubled down and suggested once again that the Holocaust was not about racism because it was white people attacking other white people. She issued a written statement. The written statement came out before the Colbert appearance, but probably was written after she had taped for Colbert already. In any case, she came out on the air yesterday, and then she did her fulsome apology.
But here's where things get spicy. In this chaos, one person steps in from the outside, a sharp, calm speaker known for slicing through emotional rants with cold, clear logic. And what happens when that kind of person crosses paths with the queens of daytime outrage? Oh, you're going to want to see this train wreck unfold. By the way, before we continued, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and share more intriguing stories. Now let's continue. Because the next part? That's where the fire really starts. It all exploded the moment Whoopi Goldberg opened her mouth and said something that made everyone in the studio go dead silent. No laughter, no clapping, just silence. She said, and this is a real quote, "Maybe white people need to get beaten up for police reform to happen." Now stop right there. Imagine flipping that statement around. Imagine anyone else saying something like that on national television. The backlash would be instant and brutal, but on The View, the other hosts just nodded along. No pushback, no challenge, just awkward smiles like it was any other hot take. The problem isn't just that it was offensive, it was dangerously stupid. Because there have been cases of police brutality against white people, lots of them. It's not a racial checkbox, it's a systemic issue. But Whoopi throws out this bizarre logic, acting like violence against a specific group is the only way to trigger reform. That's not activism, that's incitement. And what made it worse? She said it with that same calm, "I'm the wise one" energy. As if it was some deep philosophical truth. That's the mask she wears on the show, the calm voice of reason while saying things that are straight up inflammatory. And that's where the clash starts brewing, because when someone comes in and confronts this kind of rhetoric, not with shouting, not with emotion, but with cold, hard facts, well, you'll see. Keep watching. Now, let's rewind for a second, because this wasn't Whoopi's first time stepping into controversy. You'd think after decades on TV, she'd be more careful with her words. But nope, not even close. One of her biggest scandals came when she said on air that the Holocaust wasn't about race. She didn't just say it once, she doubled down. Her exact words? "It's not about race, it's about man's inhumanity to man." That's not a small mistake. That's rewriting history on live television. The Holocaust was very clearly about race Nazis targeted Jews, specifically as an inferior race. This isn't up for debate, it's historical fact. But Whoopi didn't just stop there. When the backlash hit, she went on The Late Show to apologize. Except, she didn't really apologize. She tried to reframe it again. Still defending the idea that the Holocaust wasn't about race. Then she gave another half-hearted apology on The View. And finally, a written statement came out, but the damage had already been done. What's even crazier, while others like an actress from The Mandalorian got fired instantly for way less, Whoopi only got suspended for 2 weeks. That's it, just a little slap on the wrist. Same network, same company, totally different standards. And people noticed. Not just viewers, but even folks inside Disney were furious she hadn't been disciplined earlier. The whole thing exposed the double standard playing out behind the scenes. And soon, that tension was about to boil over into something way bigger. While all that heat was still fresh, Whoopi went right back to doing what she always does, dropping wild takes with full confidence, even when they made 0 sense. This time, it was about masks. Yeah, those little pieces of cloth we've all been arguing about for years. On an episode of The View, she went off saying people need to wear masks because the flu will fly in. Not COVID, not airborne viruses in general, the flu will fly in. Like, it's a mosquito hovering around your face. And as she's saying it, the rest of the panel just nods along like she's delivering medical wisdom straight from a textbook. No one questions her. No one corrects her. It was one of those moments where you sit back and wonder, are they even listening to themselves? This is the same show that preaches about trusting the science. But now, their queen of reason is making up cartoon logic on national television, saying if you take your mask off, the flu is going to swoop in like a bird and land on your face. And what does that tell you? This isn't about facts, it's about feelings. Whoopi's words aren't based on data, they're based on whatever sounds right in the moment. And that's exactly the environment where someone with actual facts, real numbers, real logic can come in and flip the whole table. That moment was coming, and The View wasn't ready for it. Then came another moment that showed just how far disconnected Whoopi can be from basic reality. The topic was Nikki Haley, former UN ambassador and presidential hopeful. And Whoopi, with a straight face, questioned how Haley could represent a new generation of leaders. Let's do the math. Nikki Haley is 51 years old, Joe Biden, 80, Donald Trump, 78, Whoopi herself, 67. So yes, Haley is a new generation compared to the current leadership. That's just a fact. But on The View, facts don't matter if they get in the way of a narrative. Whoopi wasn't trying to make a logical argument, she was just tossing out dismissive lines to get applause from an audience trained to clap at anything that sounds progressive. And this isn't about defending Nikki Haley or her politics. This is about watching someone flat out ignore basic truth to keep a point alive. It's the same pattern over and over again. Make a bold emotional claim, act like it's deep, and hope no one actually checks the facts. But now the pattern was too obvious to ignore. Viewers were starting to see through the act. And when someone finally steps in to break the emotional spell with pure, brutal logic, it doesn't just shake the table, it flips it. And that person was already waiting in the wings, ready to challenge every careless word with something much more powerful, the truth. At this point, the stage was perfectly set. You had the VOA show drowning in dramatic takes, emotional outbursts, and a complete allergy to facts. And then, stepping into this chaos, comes someone with a completely different energy, calm, calculated, armed with data, history, and zero tolerance for nonsense. This wasn't just another guest appearance, it felt like a courtroom clash, emotion versus reason, heat versus clarity. On one side, you had Whoopi Goldberg, used to owning the room with big statements and no pushback. On the other side, someone who wasn't there to argue feelings, she was there to dissect everything she said like a surgeon with a scalpel. It was the kind of moment daytime TV wasn't ready for, because The View thrives on emotions. That's their power source. But when emotion meets pure logic, something breaks. And that's exactly what happened. There was no shouting match, no dramatic finger pointing, just a quiet dismantling. One by one, every emotional argument started falling apart. Every sentence that sounded powerful on the surface was exposed as hollow underneath. And suddenly, Whoopi wasn't leading the table anymore. She was reacting, hesitating, trying to find her footing. But the more she tried to push her narrative, the more the facts pushed back. The studio wasn't just quiet, it was stunned. Because this time, feelings weren't enough to win the day. And then it happened. The moment that took everything over the edge. Whoopi, in her usual calm yet condescending tone, dropped one of the most jaw-dropping statements ever aired on daytime TV. She repeated that same wild line. Maybe white people need to get beaten up for police reform to happen. That was it, the line that froze the entire studio. The audience didn't clap, the other hosts didn't smile. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. It was like time stopped. Whoopi didn't blink. She stood by her words, clearly expecting her emotional delivery to carry the message. But this time, emotion wasn't enough. Because sitting across from her was someone who didn't play that game. He wasn't rattled, he didn't shout, he didn't even raise his voice. Instead, he calmly took that statement, flipped it upside down, and exposed how dangerous it really was. He explained how violence, especially racially targeted violence, doesn't bring justice, it brings division. He listed real examples of police brutality against people of all races, not just the ones TV chooses to highlight. He walked through how reform actually happens with pressure, yes, but with law, structure, accountability, not beatdowns based on skin color. Piece by piece, the argument crumbled. Whoopi tried to push back, but the facts were too solid. She wasn't just losing the debate, he was losing the narrative. And the internet? It was already watching, recording, and ready to explode. The internet didn't just explode, it went into full meltdown mode. Within hours, screenshots from the show were everywhere. One image kept popping up again and again, Whoopi's stunned face frozen mid-reaction as her argument was picked apart on live TV. That moment became the meme of the day. Hashtags started trending worldwide, her name plastered next to words like wrecked, destroyed, obliterated. Twitter was a war zone. Instagram turned into a highlight reel of disbelief. TikTok edits showed the clip on loop with reactions stitched on top, mouths wide open, eyebrows raised, people literally yelling at their phones. But it wasn't just about the jokes. Something deeper was happening. People started pulling apart Whoopi's words, going frame by frame, analyzing what she said and how she said it. It wasn't just another opinion anymore, it was evidence. It was proof that emotions alone don't hold up when the facts walk in. And in the middle of all this chaos, one thing became painfully clear. Whoopi wasn't just having a bad day, she was losing credibility, fast. Every retweet, every sarcastic comment, every viral remix chipped away at that voice of reason image she had built for years. This wasn't just a debate, it had turned into a cultural momentum where raw emotion finally hit a wall called reality. And the internet? It made sure the whole world saw it. Let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture, because this wasn't Whoopi's first controversy, and it probably won't be her last. Over the years, she's built a reputation on The View as the calm in the storm, the wise one who steps in when the table gets too loud. But if you actually look at the record, her version of calm wisdom has a serious pattern and it's not pretty. Time and time again, Whoopi's statements land her in hot water. Her Holocaust comments didn't just come out of nowhere. Her bizarre takes on race, politics, and even basic science have made headlines before. Whether it's twisting historical facts or suggesting race-based violence as a solution, she leans into emotion so hard that facts get left behind. And here's the truth: emotional arguments can sound powerful in the moment. They can even win applause. But when you stack them up against clear, evidence-based logic, they fall apart fast. This clash wasn't just about one line on one episode. It was the result of years of shaky reasoning finally getting called out in real time. What made this particular moment so different is that someone was actually there to hold the Lanito challenge those emotional outbursts with pure, uncomfortable truth. And in front of millions of viewers, Whoopi's old strategy failed her. For once, the emotions couldn't cover the cracks, they highlighted them. From that moment on, it was like watching a slow-motion collapse. You could see it in her eyes. Whoopi was scrambling, trying to gather her thoughts, but the words weren't landing. She stared across the table, silent, searching for a way out of the corner she'd backed herself into. Meanwhile, the one confronting her didn't move a muscle. No yelling, no insults, just that steady, clear tone cutting through the noise. Every word landed like a clean punch firm, undeniable, precise. He didn't just argue against what she said, he broke it apart piece by piece. He brought up real data, real cases, real history about how police reform works, how dangerous it is to call for race-based violence, and why reducing complex social issues into emotional outbursts is not just ignorant, it's reckless. It wasn't a fight, it was a lesson. And Whoopi? She was the student who showed up unprepared. There was no room left for spin. No audience applause could save her. Even the other hosts just sat there, not daring to jump in. The usual rhythm of the youth cackling, the clapping, the pile-on shouting it was gone, replaced by something rare for that show: silence. And in that silence, the damage was done. Not just to one argument, but to a reputation built on being untouchable. That illusion shattered right there on live TV. What followed wasn't just awkward, it was brutal. Whoopi, like clockwork, went into damage control. She issued another apology, trying to walk back the statement. She looked into the camera with that familiar tone, trying to soften everything she had just said. But the problem was, the internet had already made up its mind. The memes were still rolling, the clips were still trending, and no matter how carefully worded her apology was, it couldn't erase what everyone had already seen. And then people started comparing, one side by side after another. Remember Gina Carano, the actress from The Mandalorian? She got fired, completely fired, for saying things that didn't come close to Whoopi's Holocaust comments. Meanwhile, Whoopi? She got a 2-week break and came right back to her seat at The View like nothing happened. It wasn't just hypocrisy, it was a spotlight on how double standards work in plain sight. One person's mistake gets punished with the loss of a career. Another's gets brushed under the rug with a polite apology and a temporary suspension. Same company, same network, completely different consequences. And the audience noticed. Not just the fans of political debates, but average viewers. People who just wanted honesty on their screens. What they saw instead was favoritism, protection, a system built around protecting certain voices, no matter what they say. That protection, it cracked. Because once trust breaks, it doesn't come back easy. And here's the thing, this whole clash wasn't just about Whoopi or one viral moment, it was about something much bigger, how public conversations are shifting. For years, shows like The View thrived on emotional takes. Loud voices, dramatic reactions, big statements with very little follow-up. That formula worked because nobody ever challenged it with facts on the spot. But this time, someone did. And when that happened, it exposed just how thin those arguments really were. People watching at home saw it. Not just the ones who live online, but everyday viewers. The difference between emotion and reason was crystal clear. On one side, you had dramatic pauses, hot-button statements, and applause lines. On the other, calm breakdowns, history, logic, and the result? One side looked rattled. The other looked unshakable. That contrast stuck with people. Because deep down, most of us are tired of being yelled at through our screens, tired of opinions disguised as facts, tired of being told how to feel instead of being shown what's actually true. And this clash became a symbol of that shift, a moment where loud didn't win, where emotional outrage didn't silence the fact, where someone finally said, "Enough," and didn't blink when the studio lights hit. The fallout wasn't just a media mess, it was a message that in today's world, facts still matter, and when they show up, they speak louder than any panel ever could. And just like that, the final blow landed not with shouting, not with drama, but with quiet, undeniable truth. The argument was over. There was nothing left to defend. Whoopi sat there, unable to respond, her usual confidence stripped away. The camera caught it all, the hesitation, the silence, the moment where even she seemed to realize there was no coming back from what she'd said. Across the table, the facts had done their job. No raised voice, no insults, just a clean, surgical takedown of every flawed point she tried to make. It wasn't just about winning a debate, it was about exposing how fragile those emotionally charged arguments really are when someone, anyone, finally says, "Let's look at the facts." And that's why the moment hit so hard. It wasn't just a debate between two people. It was a mirror held up to how our media works, how emotions have taken over logic, and how rare it is to see someone actually hold the line. The internet crowned a winner, and not just for the memes. People felt it. That shift, that rare sense of clarity in a world filled with noise. And the truth? It won't be forgotten anytime soon. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments. See you on the next one.